Good afternoon, everybody. I was really waiting to hear how that song ended, but we'll have to wait until after the session. So welcome. I hope you're all here about learning about migrating to SharePoint 2016. Yes, no? A couple folks are here because there's a lot of empty seats and the Wi-Fi is good, and that's fine. We'll take whatever.
How many of you are here just because you heard Todd was going to be here? I'm just curious. A couple of you?
You are beautiful liars. I love each and every one.
How many of you thought I was going to be in a dress again? Couple, okay.
The only reason I agreed to do this was the dress.
Yeah, well.
Let's hit it. All right. So for those of you that haven't had the privilege or the suffering of hearing me speak, this is me. I'm Todd Klindt. Have you ever gone to my blog and wondered why I have a picture of a bird in the corner? That's why. That's my car that I drive around in. I am a SharePoint MVP, and I have been since 2005, 2006, depending on how you count it. They do it in arrears. So I've spent the last decade plus living and breathing SharePoint like the rest of you. Before that, I was a server admin, an Exchange admin, SQL admin, all those kind of things, and then just kind of fell in love with SharePoint and haven't looked back. Obviously do some speaking. I think we've all seen that. And I don't know if you guys saw, was it yesterday or the day before, Jeff Teeper talked about Tuesday, big SharePoint event in Vegas in May. So some way I'll be there. I'll be watching, sweeping up, whatever. So I'm pretty excited about that. SharePoint conferences are some of my fondest memories, so I can't wait to see how that turns out. Also do some writing. I know a few of you have the books. I know see some familiar faces in the crowd. Also do consulting. So if you see something you like up here, you can email me, todd@klindt.com, or todd@toddklindt.com, and we can do something. I've also got a blog at toddklindt.com. Or you can hit me up on Twitter. Feel free right now to take pictures and tweet them at Todd Klindt, whatever.
I'll step aside so I don't ruin the picture.
Get the dress out and we'll talk. Who are you, Jason?
I am the other guy. My name is Jason Himmelstein. And I do see some familiar faces as well. You probably thought this was a business intelligence talk. It's not. This is about SharePoint migration. So I talk about SharePoint as well, but I am an Office Servers and Services MVP as well. I'm a technical strategy director at Rackspace, specifically around the Microsoft technologies. I've been doing SharePoint since 2007. Before that, I was doing Active Directory, Exchange, SQL, just about everything the past 20 years with Microsoft. Before that, I was a security admin in the Starnix space, and man, I ran away from that as fast as I could. But now I am happily back in Microsofty land and have been for the past 20 years. And that's not my house. I live in Texas, which that's in Hobbiton in New Zealand. I have my dream job. I get to travel around the world, spending time with our customers and speaking at events and going out and hearing what people's problems are, and then working within Rackspace and also with Microsoft to try and help come up with solutions to how to solve those problems. So I have a blog as well. I don't blog very often. I have a podcast also, much like you have your Monday afternoon podcast.
Podcasting is all the rage. Did anybody go to any of the podcasts that they had at the exhibit hall? So I've been podcasting since 2009. And I'm a terrible podcaster, so that kind of changed things. But those guys did a tremendous job. Hopefully you guys got to see those in person. That was an amazing thing. I know you did a couple up there as well.
We did. We had a great time. John White and I do a show called Bifocal.show. It's around business intelligence and the Microsoft stack. So we got an opportunity to do that. This is my fourth thing this week, so the voice is getting a little raspy on. For those of you who are in the pre-con day, that was a lot of fun. Hopefully you got some real good value out of all the Azure Pass stuff and all the fun that we did there. Hit me up on Twitter after the show, and as well as on email. Again, I don't blog nearly as often as you do. I leave that to the experts on writing these days. I only wrote one book. You've got like 19.
Something like that.
So, all right.
So we are contractually obligated to come up with an agenda slide. I think it's one of those things, that they do to make sure we follow the course. So this is kind of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what the difference is between migration and upgrade, because those terms get very convoluted and conflated and other words that start with con. And so we're going to talk about kind of what that means in the context of SharePoint 2016. The focus of this session is going to be on on-prem servers, so SharePoint 2013 on-prem to SharePoint 2016 on-prem, or how many of you are still enjoying SharePoint 2010 in production? Okay, good news for all you guys. Life has dealt you a bad hand, and we're sympathetic to that, but we're also going to address all those things here. Do we have anybody who's still keeping a SharePoint 2007 farm? Okay, okay, so you know what's next. Any 2003 You just like to raise your hand. I know that's that guy. So the way we've broken this up is the first bit, we're gonna talk about upgrade and migration. The next bit is going to be the things that are different, specifically going to SharePoint Server 2016. And then the rest of it's going to be 2007 to 2010, 2010 to 2013, 2013 to 2016. The story's kind of leveled out. So even if you're not going directly to 2016, there's something here for everybody. And then we're gonna kind of walk through some screenshots of an upgrade and kind of show you what's going on, get you familiar with all of that. Hit it, Maestro.
Yes, sir.
So again, these terms get misused and all that, upgrading or migrating. SharePoint 2016 doesn't support in-place upgrades. So for those of us who've been doing SharePoint, I've been doing SharePoint since the very first version, we got to enjoy in-place upgrades. So when I had my SharePoint 2003 server, I could drop the SharePoint 2007 CD in. Remember when we installed SharePoint with CDs? It was adorable. Dinosaurs would bring them over to us and we set them in the thing. But you could run them both on the same server and you could pick and choose. You could do the side-by-side migration, things like that. We can't do that anymore. We haven't been able to do that for a few versions. So in reality, it's all migration. You're kind of upgrading your content, but you have to migrate it to a different location. Jason and I are probably going to be sort of lazy about this. In most cases, we're going to use the words upgrade and migration interchangeably. That's just bad form, but we're going to do it anyway because we're lazy. But keep in mind, it's almost all migration.
Now, there's a key thing here that I like to talk to people about, and that's users remember the last time you migrated, right?
They've been hurt before.
They pucker up as soon as you say the word. It's just, you're gonna migrate. Oh no! Please don't do that. I don't care how good it's gonna. It was bad. It took me years to remember whether it's on the left or on the right to go into the site menu. And just don't. Please, just can I stay where I am? But you say upgrade, and what do they think of? They think of their cell phone.
Oh.
That's a nice thing. I remember when I had like that little tiny screen and now I've got like 14 inches that I get to carry around with the screen real estate and all the cool features that are coming now. Give me an upgrade. I'll take it up. Can I please have an upgrade? So laziness, yes, but a little bit of trickeration, not that bad a thing. Am I telling you to lie to your users? No, don't lie to your users.
Lie to your users.
But the reality is that to them, they're getting an upgrade. That's what it is. Does it matter to them that you had to build new servers and new infrastructure and all these great things in order to make it happen for them? No, they just want it when they want it and they want to get to their data. They don't really care what you had to do, all the Herculean efforts that you had to go through in order to make it happen. They just, oh cool, my stuff's there. That's an upgrade to them. So leave the word migration in the past, even though that's what it is.
What it is.
Talk to them about the upgrade because, man, it's a lot easier when they get excited about something than when they start to fight you, right? I think it's easier.
Yep. So the next point, we're all familiar with the Shakespearean dichotomy, to cloud or not to cloud. That is the question. When we're doing and planning all this, to cloud or not to cloud is something that you have to think about. Now this session, you've all read the abstract. It's about doing things on-prem, and we're going to do all we can to keep on topic with on-prem. But as the years go by, Jason and I find ourselves getting more and more excited about Office 365 and SharePoint Online. And there's going to be an awful lot of references made to moving to the cloud, even though we promised you this session would be about staying on-prem. And part of that is because we just wouldn't be responsible speakers without addressing those kind of things. And now is the time to start thinking about what your cloud strategy is going to be. We're going to hit it harder in a couple slides down the road here, but that is going to be a part of deciding how you do your migration. With any migration or upgrade is also a great time to fix the sins of the past. I've been doing SharePoint long enough that I think I've made most mistakes 6, 8 times. I don't learn quickly. And again, as the software matures, as our end users mature, things that might have been the right way to do things in the past aren't necessarily the right way to do them now. And so I like to take this opportunity to not, one of my favorite phrases, don't upgrade crap. If you've done something wrong and you know that it's wrong and it's just wrong because of inertia, because you just don't want to get in there and break things up and grind them around, when you're migrating to a new thing, on-prem, on cloud, whatever, take that hit and fix those sins of the past. This is the time to do it. Because there's going to be some inconvenience to your users when you do your upgrade, no matter how much you plan, no matter how smoothly it goes. There's going to be a little bit of that for them. So just get it all in one spot, make them take that one big shot and move on for that. So if you've got a list of things you hate about your current farm, this is the time to look at them.
Unless you have like regulations that say that you can never have anything that gets deleted, figure out what you need before you try and take it forward, because those JPEGs of cats that somebody stored back when it was SharePoint 2003 and you moved it all forward.
Are they cute cats? Are they like, bounding through fields?
You have to pick and choose which cats you want to take forward. That's the thing. So you need to make a decision about what you keep and what you throw away. So it's not just about, well, we made some architectural decisions that were wrong, but seriously, you can go in and clean up a lot of stuff. Maybe you don't have to take 16 terabytes. Maybe it can be 1 terabyte, because 15 of those terabytes are old legacy data that we don't need anymore. We can put that into an archive and be done.
Yeah, yep. And also as part of that process, you can stage things. You can figure out what the important things are to move forward. The cat JPEGs, as much as I love them, maybe you do them last, is the cleanup thing. And finally, we're going to focus mainly on out-of-the-box tools, out-of-the-box processes, and we're going to talk about some of the limitations and all that, but don't forget the third-party tools. Unfortunately, the expo hall closes 30 minutes after this. And is it even open tomorrow, or is it?
No, I think it closes after this.
Yeah, so it's done. So after this, you're going to want to come up and tell Jason and I what a great job we did and all that. We encourage that. But the expo hall closes 30 minutes after this session ends. But there's a bunch of great vendors down there that have a lot of tools that will help you with these kind of things. Don't forget about that. And what I will also tell you is it's not an all or nothing proposition. Your farms now at this day and age are probably really complicated and have a lot of databases and a lot of different types of sites. Nothing says you have to go all out of the box or all third-party tool. Probably the best approach that I've taken with most of my customers is figure out what things are going to upgrade easily and don't have a lot of things that need to be fixed. Those databases go across. But we've always got those special sites that have crazy things and those really high-end business users that read blogs and break everything that they touch. Those may need to come over with a third-party tool. But you don't have to go all or nothing. So start figuring those things out. Chances are, if you've ever taken a phone call from a SharePoint user in your organization, you know who your problem children are. You've got an idea which ones are going to need that little extra hand-holding. And so those might be the ones that are good candidates for third-party tools. But keep in mind, some of it can go wholesale, some of it can go third-party tool, and mix and match is best. You can.
Yeah. When it comes to third-party tools, there's a decision matrix that has to be looked at from a business perspective. Are you a company that prefers to spend capital to do things faster, or prefer to use operational expenses to use more labor-intensive? Because if you're a company who doesn't like to spend money, no matter how much planning we tell you to do and how many evaluations you should consider doing, if you know that there's no way that you're ever going to be able to buy a third-party tool, I'm sorry. But if you are a company that has the ability to go off and buy third-party tools, it is something, in this case, that you should be looking at and doing evaluations of, figuring out what the right tool set is for you, because there are some really great vendors out there. Yeah. And if you could sprint fast enough, and Todd, you can now, you're all svelte and everything.
I'm built for speed.
You can make it back over to the expo hall floor, but if not, I'm sure that they'll find you if you got scanned at any one of the parties this week.
Yeah, I live in a college town, so college interns, you can get them to click and drag things for next to nothing. Case of beer or something like that.
So,
yeah, so again, I warned you that we were going to talk about the cloud. We got to talk about the cloud. And so part of this is when you're planning your migration, if you are 100% on-prem with 2010, 2013, whatever, we're going to encourage you to think about cloud workloads. Even though you're installing on-prem server, we don't want to dissuade that. On-prem server's been very good to me. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there are a few reasons why you may want to look at some of your cloud workloads. Also, I don't know if you guys have noticed, we've got a shift of terminology this week. We don't call it hybrid anymore. We call it coexistence. And I think so I like to make fun of marketing things because marketing people are easy to make fun of. Hybrid seemed like a perfectly good word for that. But I like this idea the idea that Microsoft is changing the phrase to coexistence suggests that they've kind of abandoned this idea that everything's going to go into the cloud. That there's always going to be some portion of this that's going to be on-prem. That they are going to coexist together. So I like the idea behind that. I don't know if that's why they changed it, but I like the idea. So right now, you're going to see a lot of the information out there has been hybrid. You're going to start seeing the word coexistence. As far as I know, it's the same thing, just sounds fancier.
It could be that I did a talk last year at Ignite that was called Why Hybrid Means Coexistence Moving Forward. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's possible.
He's not saying it was his idea, but he's saying it was his idea. I read you loud and clear. So as you're making that decision, you need to figure out what workloads make sense where, and we're going to talk about why that's really important here in a minute. But some of the things that have to stay on-prem. So not all content makes sense up in the cloud. You may have government regulations, industry regulations, maybe just corporate regulations about what information can or can't be outside of your walls. Things like anything that's got my social security number in it. But let's be honest, my social security number is everywhere at this point. Equifax was kind enough to share it with a bunch of their closest friends. I was in a military leak. I'm a veteran, so the VA lost it. So it's probably tattooed on someone somewhere.
Well, it doesn't help that you sign birthday cards with it.
I do. Well, it just rolls off the tongue. So things like that probably need to stay on-prem. There's also data sovereignty issues. So maybe your data can't leave the confines of Canada or Germany or whatever. Though our friends at Microsoft, I don't know if you've seen the announcement this week, they've got a new phrase they love, multi-geo, which is this idea that you can have an Office 365 tenant, a single tenant, and you can pick and choose users, and their content will stay inside of certain data centers. So you can guarantee that if you've got a tenant and he lives in Germany, they've got very strict data sovereignty laws, that his mailbox will always reside inside of the boundaries of Germany in a German data center and all that. That's kind of a cool thing. But those are something. Also, if you've got any fancy custom code, third-party code your developers have written, any of that, most of that doesn't work the way that you're expecting it to in the cloud, so you may need to keep it on-prem for that. But why might you move some stuff to the cloud? I've been doing this slide for a couple of years now, and one side of this slide is getting shorter and shorter, and the other slide is getting longer and longer, and the cloud side is getting a little longer. Back in the 7-10 years ago when Office 365 and BPOS and all that were out, I was an on-prem guy, and somebody would say, hey, I know you want me to upgrade to this new shiny version of SharePoint, but should I go to Office 365? And I'd laugh, and I'd take a big breath, and I'd laugh some more. And I'd say, okay, I got this big long list of all the terrible things about Office 365. You just go ahead and stop me when I've got you, and then we'll go on and talk about on-prem servers. That list has gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. And one of the crazy ones for me is the first one. Is Office 365 more secure than on-prem? Now, I was an on-prem guy, and I've been an on-prem guy forever. And this idea that if anything happened on my premises, if bad guys got in somehow, and the klaxon sound, we'd been hacked, I could run into my server room and I could yank the cord out of that router and we were safe. That felt secure. The problem is that was like the illusion of security. By the time that happened, we'd already been hit. It was already too late. And attacks these days, people don't do it for the laughs or the yucks. They do it and they try to keep it as quiet as they can. And there was, I'm making up statistics at this point, but there was some statistic that I read last year that said most breaches don't get caught for 200 and some days. So think about that. By the time I've got this secure feeling of yanking the router cable out, they've already been in for 200 days, pulling my data out. And I've met a lot of great on-prem security folks. But Microsoft security teams are second to none. They are crazy. They are proactive as opposed to reactive. And so the more I see what the security teams at Microsoft are doing around OneDrive with compliance and all that, and just the security apparatus that they have, I'm almost at the point now where I think the cloud might be more secure. So that's something to think about. That whole, we need to keep it on-prem because it's more secure. We kind of need to rethink that. Another reason that you might want to move to the cloud and have this hybrid thing is if some point down the road, you know you're going to be all in the cloud. 5 years down the road, whatever, you may have some in the cloud, some on-prem, and do it gradually. That's okay. That's a valid thing. Save money, it might be cheaper. Chances are your on-prem client access licenses also license your users with Office 365. So any money you're spending on SQL storage and all that for their OneDrives and all that kind of stuff, you might just be throwing money away because they're probably already licensed for Office 365. So you could save some money on that. Easier accessibility. If your users want to be able to access their content from their phones and their tablets and their toasters and all that kind of stuff, that's really tough if the data's on-prem. You got to start poking holes in firewalls and doing all these horrible things. If it's in Office 365, it's already there. And you've got all the control you need about which network they can come from and how they authenticate if they come from here or come from there. And that gets you the ability to squeeze more work out of those employees by making it that much more available to them. Or for you, it makes it allows you to look like you're at work when you're really at your kid's soccer game or watching the new Disney movie or something like that. New functionality is going to come to the cloud first. So if there's any new functionality you've seen, you may end up having to move some workloads up to that. And finally, probably my favorite one is extranets. So since the first time I installed SharePoint 107 years ago, SharePoint 2001, everybody loved it. I got it installed. There was much rejoicing. And then somebody said, well, I need this person that doesn't work here to access this. How can we give them access? And for a long time, there were no good ways to do that. Do I create accounts in Active Directory for them? Well, then if they're ever on site, they can potentially log into a workstation. Do I create another domain and set up a trust? That gets very confusing. Do I do a forms-based thing? There was all these terrible ways to do this. Now, if we need some way for people in our company to collaborate with people outside of our company, Office 365 can be that way. We can have our identities synced up to our Office 365 tenant, so I log into SharePoint Online the same way I do with SharePoint On-Prem, same username, same password, same experience, but I can create an account out in Office 365 for a partner or a contractor or something, and it's only out there. They can't get inside. So one reason to maybe do that. I'm all excited about the cloud.
Yeah, I can tell.
I can't help myself.
So something to consider when we're planning our upgrade / migration. I will continue to use both words. I can't stress enough, you need to plan. Plan. This does not mean take 3 years to do it, because by then we'll be on 2 more versions of SharePoint. But you do need to think through from end to end how this is going to work. You do need to think about the cloud and make a decision as to whether or not you're going to go forward with a hybrid or coexisted situation, or if you're going to stay all on-prem. If you make that conscious decision, it's a lot easier when things come up later and some exec comes up and says, well, why can't I use X? And you are able to pull out the full explanation, the full plan of saying, here's why we made that decision. We can revisit that decision when it's time for the next upgrade, but for this upgrade cycle, we decided not to or to, okay? Begin with the end in mind. My kids are at a lighthouse school, so this one is one of mine. And I stress it with them, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. They took it to the kids. The lighthouse schools are a kids version of it. Stephen Covey's younger brother actually has this program.
That's awesome.
And so they teach this in elementary school. Begin with the end in mind. Understand where you're trying to get to, what the end state needs to look like, what your ultimate goals are for this upgrade, and then work backwards as well. So you need to work both directions and make sure that you're validating your plan as that is your goal, is to have something that is finished at a certain point, because otherwise it's just a perpetual life. It's not an upgrade. It's just living in a weird state for a really long time.
Yeah, and having the end in mind helps you not make decisions that block you towards the end. So if you know where you're going, even if you're not going to be there for a year or so, keeps you from doing things to spite yourself later on.
It's also a lot easier to status the executives who are sponsoring the project.
Yeah.
And that way you know what the milestones look like and things of that nature. So a phased approach is okay. It's actually even recommended. Figuring out what's the first step to all of this. If I'm going to implement a hybrid situation, I need to make sure identity in the cloud exists. Before I ever touch anything else, I need to make sure identity's up there. I might need to think about licensing, whether I'm staying on-prem or in the cloud. I need to really think through that licensing model. How is that going to work? Do I already have Office 365 licensed for Exchange? And therefore, I may have, if I have E3 licenses, I may already have the licensing I need for my SharePoint users to stay on-prem. And by the way, they can also now exist in that hybrid state. What other things are happening in your world at that point that are already existing that you can leverage? Right? So that phased approach gives you the ability to look at each individual phase and say, we've got to fix identity up first, make sure that all exists. We need to go through and make sure that we're doing the cleanup of SharePoint. Then we need to make sure that we have these servers to do the builds. We need to make sure that everything's patched. And then we start to move some content over. Maybe we need to figure out what groups we want to have go first. Who are my alpha group who's my alpha group gonna be? Who am I gonna test with? Right? So all of those things you really need to figure out and say, I'm going to break this out into smaller chunks and make sure that it's accessible and achievable. Okay, so that recommendation is to do this in a phased way. And understand that the landscape is ever changing.
Oh boy.
So when SharePoint 2016 first came out, we got MinRole, and we're going to talk about MinRole here in a little bit. But MinRole was this massive thing. Originally, they told us 11 servers. Then, oops, we meant 9 servers in order to run it, right? And then with Feature Pack 1, we got the combined role, as I like to call it, mini MinRole, or Feature Pack 2 MinRole, or Feature Pack 1 MinRole, as I've been told we have to call it. They changed the landscape on us at that point, right? 6 months after it released, we had Feature Pack 1, which said, oh, you don't need that many servers. Right? And with Office 365, there's always stuff moving and changing as well. So if you're going to be in that coexisted state, you need to have that in mind also. That landscape it's a topology that's continuously moving. It's like moving into a neighborhood and you're the first house that's been built. Something's always being bulldozed. Somebody at that point is always building. And even once every house in the place is built, somebody's going to end up tearing something down, build something fresher and newer. It's just the way it's going to go.
So basically what we're telling you is plan it all out, but understand that plan is probably not what it's going to end up looking like. Be flexible, be adaptable.
Yeah. As I like to say, as long as you have a plan, you can always change the plan. Yeah. If you don't have a plan, you're just hosed.
Can't change the plan.
So, all right, so let's talk about a couple of scenarios here. This is, we're going to talk coexisted state first. SharePoint 2016, you're going to need Azure Active Directory. Identity first, it's the thing. You have to have it there in order to make sure that your users, they need a single username and password to exist in both places. You can have it be different usernames and passwords, but that ultimately is going to lead to security holes because the most insecure thing in your environment is the people.
Yeah.
Okay?
Let's take a quick second. So how many of you have something out in Office 365 already? Wow.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and how many of you, like is it active, or did you go out and create a couple things and never touch it again? Is it active content out in Office 365? All right, so have you guys already done the identity piece and synced all that up and happy with it? Excellent. I'm proud of each and every one of you. Well done.
High five.
Yeah, just go ahead and clap for yourselves or something. That's good. So that's something, that's a poll we like to take as we do these things, and over the last few years, that number's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Makes me very happy. So it sounds like most of you have done this, but like Jason said, get the identity in place, start figuring out which pieces go into Office 365. So here's...
Nope, I went too quick.
Did you do it again?
Do it again. Here we go. Ready? Are we watching?
Yep. It didn't do it.
Yeah, it did. It blinked.
Okay. So those of you that have seen my sessions before, I might not be the best guy at PowerPoint. Like there might be a thing or two that I can learn about PowerPoint. And so Jason and I fought this animation, and I'm terrible at this. But one of the things that we want to bring up is if you already have Office 365 and you already have the Azure AD piece in and everything's good to go, there's a part of this that may not have already occurred to you. That if you're on SharePoint 2013, you can already do a bunch of this stuff. Hit it, Maestro.
I did. Boom.
Hit it again. What did I do to the slide deck? Hit it again.
I'm waiting. Oh, you want this one?
There we go.
Oh, you're no fun. Yeah. I was doing the blinky thing.
Yeah. Well, so what you can do is before you get 2016 laid out, after you've made your plan and gotten everybody's approval, but before you've started laying down those beautiful SharePoint 2016 bits, in 2013 you can say, I can start moving things up to the cloud now, because every piece of content you move up into Office 365 off 2013 is one less thing you have to upgrade to 2016. So don't think, well, I can't do the cloud thing until I get 2016 in place and No, you absolutely can. These can be parallel processes. And both your 2013 farm and your 2016 farm can access the same Office 365 tenant. Same search, same all those kind of things. So don't think that you have to wait until you get to 2016 to do that.
Now, with that said, you bring up a good point about search. So we saw that a lot of you were still on 2010 and on 2007, right? There are a lot of people in this room, and there are a lot of you who are still in that state, right? So for those of you who are in that state and you're looking at how do I start this process, how do I get incrementally out to Office 365 for a certain workload? How do I figure out what the right pieces to move around are? I'm going to encourage you to think about it this way. You can crawl your 2010, 2007 content.
2003, 2001, whatever that guy there's got.
File shares, whatever.
Yeah.
So from 2016, creating a cloud search service application and pushing those indexes out into Office 365, so you're not having to have that heavy-duty search topology on-prem First thing that you should do is think about this and say, do I really want to manage search on-prem? That's a lot of servers if I have a lot of content. How do I leverage something in a way that is going to make things easier on me in the long term? This is what I would encourage you to do, is to go ahead and stand up that SharePoint 2016 farm, specifically first for services. Search can be that first one that you use. Federate it up with Office 365. At that point, your search results get pushed up there. Your users are likely already licensed for Office 365. They have to be in order for this to work, by the way. If you don't have them licensed for Office 365, they're going to return no results in their search query.
Very confusing for them.
So it would be very confusing. But from 2007, you can point at the Search Center in Office 365 through SharePoint 2016 and get those results coming back. Okay, even in 2007. So those searches would return all of the data across your entire estate. Okay, now if you're choosing not to go to Office 365, you can do this just with SharePoint 2016 as well, taking the Office 365 and Azure AD portions out of this. That is the first thing you should stand up and do. Okay, if you're going to keep all of your content on-prem and never push a site collection out to SharePoint Online, this still works. Okay, you can still use the Cloud Search Service application. You are still keeping all of your data on-prem. You are putting things into the index in the cloud, but your data still resides under your control in your server, and that's where it is. If you decide to go into a coexisted state where you put some things, you're living in 2007 or 2010 and 2010 in a lot of cases, and you stand up your SharePoint 2016 server and you say, there are things I'm going to keep on-prem and there's stuff I'm going to put into Office 365. First thing I want you to consider doing is stop building new sites in 2007 and 2010. If you haven't done that already, do it now. I'll wait. Start building them either in SharePoint 2016 on-prem or in SharePoint Online. Turn off new site creation in the old environments, okay? First thing, right out of the gates, do it immediately, okay? Then you can start to migrate things across, okay? There's a push versus pull scenario when it comes to this upgrade, okay? And I like to describe it as the Bob and Jane situation.
Good old Bob and Jane.
Good old Bob and Jane. So Jane is a project manager in my company. She's a PM level 1. She works with Bob. Bob's a PM level 3. Bob's a hyper-competitive guy. Bob's got a massive project, capital project that he's doing. He's running all of his stuff out of our SharePoint 2007 environment. Jane's got a brand new project. It's an office move. It's a $200,000 capital project, but because of the timing, we spin up a new SharePoint Online or SharePoint 2016 site for Jane, and Bob walks past Jane's cube one day and sees Jane working in the newer version of SharePoint. Bob storms into Jane's office and goes, "What is that? Why do you have that? I'm the PM3, you're the PM1. It could be reverse gender roles here, by the way, folks. I'm not trying to be a sexist. But why do you have that thing and I have that thing?" Well, I don't know, talk to IT. So Bob comes storming into the IT office, and Bob goes, "Why do I have this old stuff and Jane has the new stuff?" And the IT manager sitting there popping popcorn in his or her mouth going, "I don't know, Bob, do you want to migrate? You ready to move? We can make that happen for you. When would you like to do it?" "I want to move right now." "Well, actually next Friday, after next Friday, because we have a big deliverable." "Not a problem. You're going to need to do some steps first before we can move any of your stuff." "Not a problem. I'll get my people to do it. I just want the new cool stuff that she has." That's a totally different conversation than most upgrade conversations, right? It's kind of a nice thing. I have seen this time after time after time. And it's kind of nice when you have that PM1 go and do a lunch and learn and show it off, because then you get a dozen Bobs coming into the IT office. And all of a sudden, a third of your users want to move their own content, and they're willing to do things in order to make that happen. Instead of you having to go on and push them into the new environment, they're pulling you and saying, "Please give me the new stuff." Okay? That's what I want to encourage you to think about when you're doing your planning, is how do I trick my users into wanting the new thing?
Yep.
Okay?
If they think it's their idea, that's
a lot easier.
Yep. So kind of to sum it up, you can have these search. Yeah. Search is a great binding force. So how many of you have environments that are large enough that you're not going to be able to switch it over like on a weekend or in one fell swoop? Yeah. So I remember the days after the CD installs, but before, today, where you could say, okay, SharePoint's going to be down starting Friday night, Monday morning. Everything you know and love is going to be gone, and the cog's going to be someplace else. That used to be possible. Remember those days? We can't do that anymore. We've got too much content. We've got companies in Europe or subsidiaries in Europe and Asia that do this. So things like what Jason suggested, where you stand up your new farm, you point search from the new farm at the old farm, so people start going to the new farm. These are some of the new techniques that we're going to have to learn because we can't bring it all over wholesale anymore. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later too. All right, so the next bit is all about the things that are different only when you're going from 2013 to 2016. So we got 3 or 4 slides on that, and then at the end of that, everything after that will be every version, but the next few slides are only SharePoint 2016 Server. So this is something that comes up all the time. What is the path? And again, this is for out-of-the-box tools only. Third-party tools can do fancy and amazing things. That's a different story, but it's always N-1. So it's always, you can only upgrade from 2007 to 2010, only 2010 to 2013. I think you guys can figure that out. One nice change that Microsoft made in SharePoint 2013 is your 2010 database can be RTM. Did anybody else get stuck in that deal where they had a 2007 farm that was just one broken shoelace away from exploding and losing everything? And you want to upgrade it to 2010 and they're like, you got to get Service Pack 2 on there. Like, there is no way I can put Service Pack 2 on this farm. I had a dozen of those. So fortunately, going forward, as long as you get your database in 2010 to RTM, it would upgrade to 2013. 2013 RTM will upgrade to 2016. So that was a nice touch. Also, they announced on Tuesday, we get another version of on-prem servers. That is awesome. So sometime late next year, we're going to get the Office 2019 servers. So again, looking at that whole N-1 thing, if you're looking at using out-of-the-box tools to upgrade, you're going to have to get 2016 sooner rather than later because pretty soon, 2019 or whatever they call it.
Are you taking questions at this point?
Sure. You, sir, in the front.
Yeah. Do you think that conference you talked about in May, they're going to maybe talk about some of those things that are going to be in 2019?
I would say there's a good chance that there might be some SharePoint 2019 talks at the SharePoint thing in May.
Yeah, I have a funny feeling that's going to be a good portion of that content in May. Jeff talked about this being their May moment, and they've unveiled things to us.
May has been a good month for SharePoint. That was when SharePoint 2016 was first announced. Yep. So for whatever reason, Jeff Teeper really likes May.
Yeah.
So
that's his birthday maybe in May.
Maybe
we should all bring him birthday cake when we go to that conference. Anyway.
So if you are in a spot where you're like that guy who has the digital dashboard stuff from 1997, and he wants to get that to SharePoint 2016, don't lose heart. Third-party tools can probably do it. The other thing that I've done is if I've had customers who needed to skip a version and didn't have a lot of data, I've built a sacrificial farm. So I've done this mostly from 2007 to 2013, but since I can't take a 2007 database and attach it to 2013, I will build up a single 2010 server whose only function in life is to do that one hop. So I take my 2007 database, drop it in this 2010 environment, attach it, whirring, cogs, smoke, all that stuff. When it's done, detach it, connect it to 2013, whirring, cogs, and I've done that. That takes a long time. You have to be very patient, or maybe a big backlog of movies on Netflix you want to watch while that's happening. Many ways to deal with that, but that is one way to do it if you don't want to pay for the third-party tools or the manualness of them. You can do that.
So one question that always comes up just after a big announcement like there's going to be a SharePoint 2019. Happened in 2013, happened in 2016, happened in 2010. Does anybody know what the question is? Should I wait for the next version? Here's my answer to you. No. Don't wait for the next version. 2016, if you are already planning, and I assume you are because you're in the room, okay? If you're already planning a 2016 move and you're trying to figure out how you're going to do it, don't stop that process.
No.
Okay? Microsoft has done an awful lot of work to get us to the point where 2016 should move to 2019 in a fairly seamless way. They rewrote the back end from 2013 to 2016. Anybody notice that the look didn't change all that much from 2013 to 2016?
Very familiar feeling.
The IT Pro experience seemed very similar, but under the hood, everything changed. So I can't tell you authoritatively that it's going to be a snap, right? But looking at it and reading the tea leaves, I will bet you, I'm not going to bet very much. I got about a penny on this because there are a lot of you in the room and a lot of people are going to listen to this online. I will bet you that it's going to be a lot simpler to move from 2016 to 2019 than anything that we've had in the past.
Yeah, and the other thing is, yeah, you're right, that should I wait? Think about your upgrade process as you've got it now. So let's say 2019 drops, so they said the second half of next year. So I'm going to assume December 31st, 11:52 or 3 p.m. Okay, so you're not even going to start that process until the bits drop. You're going to install the bits, you're going to play with them for a couple of months, you're going to plan. If you wait to go to 2019, it's going to be March, April, May of 2019 before you do it. So yeah, go ahead with 2016, keep on keeping on. All right, so the upgrade to 2016 is mostly the same as 2010 to 2013. How many of you have at least one successful 2010 to 2013 upgrade under your belt? Congratulations, you've already done one test run for 2013 to 2016. You already know how it works. You can't upgrade in place. You get to do the database attach, much like you did, and you can't, so there's some changes around that. It's database attach. We'll talk about that. One thing to keep in mind is do not just copy your current 2013 topology. That's always a bad idea for one version to another regardless. But with 2016, like Jason talked about earlier, 2016 introduces this idea of min role. This idea that you can define the service instances that a server is running by the role that it has in your farm. You can say, I've got this farm of 2016 servers. This one will always be a web front end. Give it that min role, and SharePoint via timer jobs will make sure that everything that server needs to satisfy that role is running. Anything that it doesn't need that would compromise its performance or its security gets shut off. It's a great tool. It's a great thing. 2013 didn't have that. So because of min role, you should rethink your topology. There is kind of a way out of that when you're installing 2016. You can say, I don't want to pick a min role. I don't know what it all means. These words scare and confound me. I'm going to use a custom role so I can just use it the same way I used 2013 and 2010. Don't do that. Bad admin, don't do that. The min role stuff's not that complicated. Play with it a little bit. Send Jason or I an email. We can send you pictures. It's very easy. But it's a good thing for your farm. It makes it really easy to keep track of stuff and use that in your topology.
So with that said, one of the things around min role that is really great, Microsoft hasn't done this a whole lot. They've done some great things. That sounded wrong. But what I'm getting at is this is a configuration setting, not an installation setting. Oh, yeah. So min role, when you're setting it up, you're not setting it up for life. This doesn't mean you have to go and build a new server in order to have a new role. It is a configuration setting that can be changed at any point, hopefully during a maintenance window. Yeah. Okay? The suggestion that I will give you is if you're going to make a change to min role, drop it back into custom role, which opens everything wide up and it doesn't have anything turned off, and then re-put it into the role that you want it to go into. So if you're trying to make an application tier server into, or a distributed cache server into a web front end, take that from distributed cache, move it into custom role, and then move it into web front end. That way everything gets to wipe its brain a little bit, and then you limit back at that point. Does that make sense? Awesome.
Quick question up front here.
I do have one question. So what you were saying, if you were to change a web front end to an application, once we change it to a custom role, and then we change it to application.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the question here was, if we were moving from a web front end to an application server, should we move it through custom role as well? The answer to that is yes. In my experience, it is better. I have yet to have anything horribly fail just by moving it directly, but I have seen some things just take a little bit longer to deal with. So if you go through that process and let it spend overnight and clean itself out, going into custom role, what happens in min role is that it eliminates things from, they're still there on the server, but it literally turns things off, okay? By dropping it into custom role, you're turning everything back on, and then at that point you can go move it into the next role, which will turn the things off. So as opposed to moving it from application to web, where you may have things that you need to go light up, they're already lit up, it's a matter of turning things off at that point. Does that help?
And
I have one more question along the same line though.
Okay.
I'm actually building a farm right now, and in order to do SQL reporting,
So I'm gonna hold you at that point, because that I can go into really deeply. If it's okay, we'll hold it till the end because we have a limited amount of time, and I'd
step
love
up
to make sure I
afterwards.
answer your question properly.
So as Jason was saying, what MinRoll does, the only thing that it does is it goes into central admin, services on server, and it just starts and stops things. That's all that it is. It's a timer job version of that. So if you've got a machine that's going to be a web front end, it just goes in and makes sure that foundation web service thing, service instance is turned on. That's all that it does. Completely changeable, completely flexible. Do not be afraid of the MinRoll.
If you're in a situation where you really have to flip like that, and I'm snapping my fingers for those on the audio, okay, you can just go flip it. But understand that it may have some funkiness there. It's better to take the overnight method, go ahead and flip over to custom and then back out. But it doesn't mean you can't. You absolutely can go and do it. I've yet to run into big problems with it, but just minor little problems along the way.
Finally, who gets to run some project servers? Do we have any project server? Yeah.
That's way too many.
Yeah, sorry to hear that,
Sorry.
folks. How many of you have separate project server farms because project server is mean and nasty? Yeah. So good news, bad news. I don't know how you want to slice this. In 2016, project server is built in. It's an additional license, but it is built into the core product. So the good news is the patching, it's all built into the patching and it's integrated very well. The bad news is it's all built in. So when you're doing your testing and your planning, if you've got a separate project server farm, investigate how well that all works in 2016 and see if you can't shrink those down into a single farm that's got project and content. All right, let's have the next one here. Okay, so one thing when you're moving from 2013 to 2016 that will not work is site collections on 2013 that are in 2010 mode. So they have a few affectionate names. We refer to them as Frankensites. We refer to them as being 14.5 mode because SharePoint 2010 is 14. Those will not only not upgrade, they will block the database that they are in from upgrading. SharePoint 2016 really hates them a lot. I don't know if they stole its bike when it was a kid or something. I don't know what happened. But if you run that bit of PowerShell up there, on your 2013 farm, it will tell you which of those site collections in a database are in that 14 compatibility mode so that you can go through and upgrade them to the 2013 mode so that your database will come across. One change that happened from the 2010 upgrade to 2013 up to 2016 is when you attach a content database in 2016, all of the site collections are upgraded. Now, when you took a 2010 database and attached it to 2013, none of the site collections were upgraded, and you couldn't have it do that. They went out of their way to make that not work very well. The problem with that, or the reason for that was 2010 and 2013 were very different, and Microsoft had this do no harm idea. They didn't want to upgrade all your 2010 stuff and break a bunch of things. They wanted it to be very deliberate. They wanted you to test it, so they didn't do it. But like Jason said earlier, the change from 2013 to 2016 is a lot smaller. It's not such a big deal. And that's on the front end, that's on the database side, all of that. So they've chosen to go the exact opposite route. And if you just drop a database into 2016, it will upgrade automatically. Now, if you've got a big database and you've done testing and you know that it's going to take a while, you can use the skip site upgrade parameter for add SP content database, and it will skip that part. And then you can go in with upgrade SP content database and hit them in order. Or the first time a site collection administrator hits a site collection, it will get upgraded also.
So SharePoint is now a teenager, right? And just like a teenager, it knows better than you do. So that's sort of what we're dealing with here is that, you know, Microsoft said, well, we know it's going to be fine. So we can have that ability to put it in timeout, though.
Yeah.
That's sort of where you're talking.
Yep. And then finally, since SharePoint 2007, we've had this Excel services thing, and then in SharePoint 2010, we got the Office web apps that were amazing, and they had the web app that was different from Excel services, and you had to tell SharePoint which to use because they were both very jealous and couldn't share. Now in 2016, the Excel services bit is completely out of SharePoint and completely in the Office online servers, which should be a good thing, but just know that when you're wiring things up, that's the thing.
So I talked about the Cloud Source Service application a little bit earlier, a little bit more in depth about that because we feel pretty strongly that this is, if you do nothing else, this is the piece of hybrid coexistence that you need to be considering. Okay,
Yeah.
so are you going to do cloud search service application? That is a decision that you need to make right up front. Understand the pros and cons, understand why to or why not to. And there's some really great sessions at this conference and others that you can go off and hear all about deep search conversations. We're not going to do that. We're just going to say cloud search it's the bomb.
Yeah.
This affects your hardware topology.
In a good
This-
way.
Yes, this
In a
is
very good way.
for a change. This is a limiting factor. This is a weight loss. I like to explain it as the Todd Klindt model. In previous versions, it was a little bit less svelte and it lost a lot of weight and got very healthy now. Some things are not there anymore. You don't need as much candy. But the point is that we can move workloads out of SharePoint that belong in other things.
Yeah.
Excel
SharePoint's
service.
on a similar weight loss program.
Yes, Excel services being one of them that we talked about on the last slide. This is another one. Search can still live inside of SharePoint, but it has the ability to do better by moving out to other places. So we talked about the licensing implications of this one already a little bit, that you have to be licensed. And you do have to create a new cloud search service application. You cannot convert. And the way that we recommend doing this is go off and you have your existing search application, whether it's in 2010, 2013, or now in 2016 if you're already there and you're starting to look at doing cloud search service application. Go off and spin up a cloud search service application, which, by the way, you can do in 2013 as well. You don't have to just do it in 2016. It exists for 2013 as well. Go off, spin it up. Mirror all of the settings across from your existing search application. Keep your search application running as it is. Go off and do that crawl. Full crawl, make sure that everything gets populated. Then go off and do proper testing. Make sure that all the results are returning that you expect to return. At that point, repoint the search center. Pause, don't stop, pause your crawler. Okay? If you're going to do testing for more than a couple weeks, turn your crawler back on in an off-peak time so you can keep that up to date, just in case for some reason you have to roll back and go back to the on-prem. But once you have everything working and the cloud search service application is working really well, then you go off, stop your crawl, leave that alone for a month, and once everything for another month is beautiful, go off and turn off that on-prem search application, remove all the extra extraneous hardware that you needed, and you're good to go.
Yeah, another thing I would mention is Satya talked about a bunch of new search things in the keynote and all that. All of that is built on this. So you can leverage a bunch of the new AI stuff and all those things that are coming with your on-prem content via this. So something to think about. Let's hit it. We got running out of time here. So much great upgrade stuff to talk about. All right, so from here on out, from here till the end of the session for the next 23 minutes, everything we're going to talk about is pertinent for 2013 to 2016, 2010 to 2013, 2001 to 2003 for that guy. All of it, it's all the same for everybody. The first thing is, we mentioned in-place upgrade is gone. No two versions of SharePoint can exist on the same server at the same time. So keep that in mind. RTM databases work for 2010, 2013. You will find some 2013 documentation, I believe, that says you need to have some later one, March 2014 patch or something. I've never had an RTM database that didn't upgrade. So RTM databases are fine. You will likely need more hardware depending on how hard the hardware you've got now is. And by hardware, we mean virtual machines. But know that 2016 does more things, and so the software needs its pound of flesh. So play some of those roles out, test them out, see what you need. You may need more hardware.
And in some cases, you may need to just take a look and say, well, I was using X number of virtual cores before. I may need to increase that number or increase the RAM because I'm changing the configuration of things. If I'm going to use the new version of MinRoll, then I'm going to put multiple things on the same server. That is going to require more hardware, so to speak, in that, but it may require less servers, but it's going to need more horsepower ultimately to be able to run properly.
Yeah, and I will say one of the things that Microsoft and the computing industry in general has done is we've kind of reached the limit on how fast processors can do things, and so software architects have started planning wide instead of faster, and so that's kind of what we're looking at now, is scaling out instead of up. So keep that in mind. Which databases can we attach? Content databases, of course. If you couldn't attach content, there'd be no reason to migrate. And that includes the My Sites. We'll talk about those in the next slide. You can also do your service apps. So if you've got a 2010 service app, you can pull it into 2013 or a 2013 service app into 2016. For the most part, the way that process looks is you take your database in 2013. We'll use BCS because it's on the top there. Take that BCS database, back it up, restore in SQL, restore it to the SQL instance that your 2016 farm is going to use. Restore it. Hopefully you're using different service accounts in all of your farms. I've got a hysterical story about why that's a good idea, but I don't have time to indulge myself. But fix the permissions, get that database happy in SQL. Go into 2016, create a new BCS service app. And one of the things you can do is specify the database name. Give it the name of the database you just restored. Automatically in the background, SharePoint 2016 will upgrade that database for you. Poof, all of your BCS entries will be there. For the most part, that's how all of those work.
Performance Point. Anybody using Performance Point at this point?
Anybody gonna, aw,
Yeah.
sorry to hear that. You seem like such nice people.
Yeah. Consider what you want to do with that.
Consider not.
Yeah. Let's stop
Yeah,
it.
but it will. A couple of notes, back quick on that one. User profile databases will upgrade, but I can tell you 9 times out of 10, unless somebody's done something fancy in the UPS, I don't upgrade them. Especially going from 2013 to 2016, because we've kind of come full circle. The user profile service in 2016 is just the fast import that we enjoyed in 2007. So while they will upgrade, I wouldn't do it unless you've added some custom fields or need something fancy. And for search, all it does is bring you your settings. You still have to do your full crawls, all that.
So, quick question on the performance point, like, are they not even moving it further in 2016 or 2019? Or?
So I'll go back to that and I'll address that. So the question was, is Performance Point moving forward? It is in 2016. From 2010 to 2013, they made about 7 changes. From 2013 to 2016, they made about 0 changes. And from 2016 to 2019, I'm willing to bet they're going to only make 1 change. You can infer whatever you'd like from that. I'm expecting only 1 change. It's going to be significant, but
significant change nonetheless.
just reading the tea leaves, I have no inside information on this. I'm just saying I would consider looking at Power BI and some of the other really cool tools that are out there for those functions.
Yep. All right, My Sites and OneDrive for Business. So your My Sites, your OneDrive for Business, they are just site collections, fancy ones, but site collections. But they're a little different. So as you're planning your migration, should you migrate them at all? Different companies have different amounts of use that happens there. If your users aren't using them much, it might just be something you don't have to worry about. Or, even though this is a session on on-prem migration, this is also a good thing to look at, is maybe we just put those up in the cloud. Because as I can tell you as an IT guy, when I'm planning out SQL storage and drives and all that kind of stuff, my sites are really tough to budget for. Because I've got however many users and how big are they going to be, and you never know. Let Microsoft deal with that. You're probably already licensed for it anyway. So these are easy ones to punt up into the cloud. But don't think just because it's there you have to upgrade it. Remember my mantra, don't upgrade crap.
Agreed. Some of the most significant feature upgrades that are coming to the OneDrive and SharePoint platforms are coming in OneDrive. We are no longer in the days where we say the word OneDrive and we go, OneDrive. Okay, OneDrive has some amazing stuff that they just showed at this conference. Strongly suggest you go take a look at Stephen Rose's sub-keynote for that. Really worthwhile to take a look at. It's a great reason, and it's not SharePoint, by the way. It is, but it's not. So take a look at it and understand what you can do with that and get rid of your My Sites.
Yeah, OneDrive's a real little boy now. One thing about that, no matter what you do with your OneDrive, if you don't do the database content, if you move it up to the cloud or something, the content itself is not migrated. So basically, if you put your OneDrive, your My Sites up into OneDrive for Business in the cloud, it just changes where that link at the top of the page goes. It's just an audience thing, just behind the curtains. So you need to move that up. You got a couple of options. You can have the users do it themselves. Open them up in both in a browser, drag and drop, whatever. Microsoft released the shiny new SharePoint migration tool that will migrate content from on-prem to Office 365, including My Sites. So you can do that, or use a third-party tool. Pop it up there.
So one of the things before you start migrating, Todd and I have learned this lesson. This is where some of the pain comes in. This is the major portion of that slide is document everything.
Yes.
Even if you don't think that it's important, document everything.
Probably.
My favorite tool for this right now, OneNote. I love just take a screenshot, pop it in OneNote. Take a screenshot, pop it in OneNote. Use that clipper tool, just pop it in like that. There are some amazing third-party tools out there that will do a lot of this for you if you have the budget for it. Highly, highly recommend you consider looking at Acceleradio's SP.kit and Rencor's SPCAF. We make no money on these recommendations. They're just that awesome, guys. Really worth taking a look at. But these are some of the things that you need to go off and take a look at. If you're going to do this manually, you can absolutely do it, but do it on all of your servers, not just one. Do it everywhere, and make sure that you have all of these things documented, all of them, because you're going to forget. You're going to go, oh no, I remember that alternate access mapping. I got that covered. You're going to forget. Promise. That's what alcohol does to you.
Yeah. So when we went back to the slide that talked about what databases we can upgrade, there was one conspicuously absent one, config. We can't upgrade the config database. And you'll notice that left-hand column is all things that are in the config database. So if we can't upgrade the config database, that means we've got to put them in manually, hence the problem. And so there's a couple of things. Go back there.
Sorry.
Optimizations. That top link there, and these slides will be out on the Ignite site, so you can download them or email us. We'll send you them, whatever. That top one is a PowerShell script that Microsoft published to document your farm. I think what happened, college interns, again, I live in a college town. I think a college intern came in and looked at all of the SharePoint PowerShell commandlets that start with the word get and just ran them all and piped them into a file. Get SP web app, get SP alternate access, all that. So it's not really well formatted, but it is a huge document with everything in it. The link below that is a link to an Excel spreadsheet that kind of prompts you to look at these things. So it's a little more controlled, SP.kit. But again, all of these things are interesting settings. The IIS, when I bring that up, anything that you did outside of SharePoint, your new farm will not know about. So things like certificates and host headers and all those kind of things that you went into IIS Manager for, SharePoint's got no idea about them. It's not going to be documented in the config database. So go ahead and grab those. And since you can't upgrade your farm in place, your old farm should be there, so you should be able to look at them side by side. One of the things that we used going from 2007 to 2010 was pre-upgrade check, and that was just kind of a good gut check to tell us what things were terribly wrong with our 2007 environment so we could fix them in 2010. We don't have that going to 2016, but what we do have is test SP content database, and we can run that on our old farm or our new farm, or in probably the best case scenario, both. And then it will tell us what things that we need to look at. And we're gonna look at this in a couple of slides. A couple of things that they added in 2013 were the show location and show row counts switch. Show location is handy because if you run test SP content database, you might get an error that says this web part, snowflakes.dwp, exists, is referenced but doesn't exist. It's referenced 27 times. You're like, well, that's great, but where is it referenced? Like, is this some crazy website that I don't care about? How can I look and see what this thing does? There was no way to find out. Now you can do show location, and it will spit out for all of those things the webs that have that. Now we'll give it to you the GUIDs, so you got to do get SP web to get them, but it will show you where that's at. Show row counts gives you the row counts of all your tables in SQL because there's some limitations for that. So that will give you those. Same in 2010, 2013, 2016. Managed paths. If you have any managed paths in your old farm, where are those stored? The config database. So your new farm doesn't know what those are. So if you've got any wildcard managed paths, /partners, /whatever, those aren't going to come over. When you attach your content database, 2016 is going to look through all the site collection relative URLs and say, I notice a lot of these URLs have the word partner in them, but I don't have an alternate, or I don't have a managed path for that. Those must be explicit managed paths, and it will create one for every partner site you have, as opposed to creating the wildcard that you had. And so SharePoint does everything it can to make those sites render. The problem is you would add the next partner site, You can't add it because it's not a wildcard managed path. You have to add an explicit one. So add those first so that SharePoint knows what it's doing. Another thing is always make sure whatever content database has the root of the web app in it, you do first. There's a few places where SharePoint takes a shortcut for services and things like that, where it doesn't look at the whole URL. It just says, all right, VTI bin is accessible everywhere. I'm just going to grab it from /. You have to have something at /. Now, the first question we get about that is, my root site collection is horrible. It's got about 517 links on it. Marketing took it over and did horrible things. It's got a 4 meg JPEG on it. It's terrible. I don't want to upgrade that thing. That's fine. Don't upgrade it. Then just create a blank one in 2016. There's just got to be something there for 2016 to look at.
So I want to point out one thing, since this is the don't make our mistakes conversation. If you are going to go into coexistence and you're going to have some sites in SharePoint Online and you're looking at your managed paths and you go, oh, I need partners, I need this, I need that, you get 2.
Yeah.
Okay, you do not get managed paths in SharePoint Online.
Nope.
Okay, this is a problem that you have to address. You have to think about it and figure out what the naming is going to be for your site as you move out into the cloud. So I've had some customers who were like, yes, we're ready to go. We're starting da-da-da-da-da, and here's my managed paths. We're like, no.
Yeah.
Sorry, you get 2, teams and sites.
Yeah, you can have any managed path as long as it's teams or sites.
Yeah.
That's how that works. No more visual upgrade or Franken sites. We talked about that. 2016 is 2016. We got the list here of the versions. We added the 2019 on there. I assume it's going to be 17.
Good. I think it's a good guess.
We'll find out whenever. Office Online Server, I'm going to kind of breeze through this one quick because we're running out of time. This is the Office web apps, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote in the browser. If you don't have them, you should get them. They add amazing functionality. Your users love it. It's things like if you hover over a Word document in a document library, it renders the document for you in a pop-up, things like that.
So a couple things about this really fast. Number one, they have to be on their own server. That's where Todd was going to head next. But look in your environment. If you're staying on-prem for SharePoint, the likelihood is you're probably staying on-prem for some other services. Mm-hmm. You may already have an Office Online Server on-prem in your implementation, in your estate somewhere. Find out if it's there, because you may not need to spin up another one.
Yeah.
Okay?
If you've got an Exchange team, they're using it. If you've got a Skype for Business team, it's the same thing. They can all leverage it. Yep, good advice. It has to be on its own server. There's a weird licensing thing where you can't have that on shared hardware, so probably doesn't come up. For Rackspace, it was a deal because customers couldn't host it on
Can't be on
hardware.
a public cloud. That means the Rackspace public cloud, AWS. Anybody know the third one? Azure. You can't run it on Azure either. Okay,
Yeah.
Not in production at least. All
Yep.
right, this is really, really important. It is a licensing thing that Microsoft has. We've been fighting and fighting, and we still have not won. Now, the place you can do it is you can do it in Rackspace's private cloud space, but it has to, again, be private cloud, not public cloud.
Hardware that only you own. The other thing is it is licensed differently. It is licensed as a client because the Office client team, the hardworking folks that get paid to write Word and Excel, they didn't want people to stop buying Word and Excel because this is great functionality. And so this is licensed with your client licenses, not with your SharePoint Server Cal licenses. And again, Excel services is built in there. Authentication, by now, everybody's probably moved to claims. For any of these things to work, Office Online Server, Workflow Manager, all those things, you need to have claims. And so that's just the way that it goes. One thing that we get asked a lot, and I'll jump to the next slide. That was CNN.
Apparently that is CNN.
Somebody's got CNN going over there.
It sounded like a ringtone.
Yes, the question that we get a lot is if somebody's got a classic web app, like in 2010 or something, when to convert it. You really have 2 times that you can convert it. Before you migrate to 2016 or after you migrate to 2016. Both are valid. Both have good reasons. I prefer to do it after because if you do it before, what is another name for the environment you're doing it in? Production. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like making changes like that in production. So what I like to do is I like to move it in 2016, do a function check, make sure everything works, then flip that switch. And this is what that looks like. So the top one creates the classic web app. The second line there gives you a report of which web apps are using classic. So you can run that on 2010, 2013, whatever. The bottom line converts classic to claims. You can run that bottom line as many times as you want to. So you don't have to worry about, well, when do I run it? When all my databases are there, the first one. There are two things that happen when you run that bottom line. Number one, it goes into IIS and it changes how IIS does authentication. Because IIS does authentication, SharePoint does authorization, auth-in, auth-z, and all that. So that's the first thing that happens. The next thing that happens is that commandlet goes through your content databases and basically does a find with replace and says, here's the classic version of my username, here's the claims version of my username, and it copies them over. It can do that second part as many times as you need it to. So you can bring your first database over, convert your web app, bring your next database over, run that again, convert that database, so on and so forth. I prefer to do it after. Some people do it before. Either one's good.
So we're going to have to speed up just a little bit, so I'm going to jump in and talk kind of fast. Looking at your features and solutions, this is a good time to start looking at the SharePoint framework and what those upgrades look like. We talked about a couple of third-party tools earlier. Definitely take a look at those as to, because they can prescribe what things can move and where. If you want to do it manually, and you can go out and take a look at Shane's blog. He has a blog about the 2010 method for doing this. It still works in 2013 and 2016. So that is in the deck for that URL. It's kind of long, so we're not going to read that to you.
Yep.
So,
here are the commands that you're going to use. But let's just go ahead and look at them. We've got screenshots of them. But essentially, you're going to go into PowerShell, because everybody loves PowerShell. One of the most important steps for doing a SharePoint upgrade when you pop into PowerShell is starting the transcript. So this is not a SharePoint thing. This is a PowerShell thing completely. I do it every time I open PowerShell, no matter what I'm doing. Start-transcript creates a text file that is a log of all the things that you type and all the things that PowerShell sends back to you.
So on that, PowerShell profiles help you so that you don't have to remember this. I have in my GitHub repo at github.com/Jason Himmelstein PowerShell profiles. Shane also has a YouTube video that he did recently on this topic. So definitely take a look at those if you're trying to figure out how to do this more programmatically.
Yep. So it's important for SharePoint upgrades because when you start doing that test SP content database, there's a chance that you're going to get a bunch of things in your database that are wrong. And if you get more than are in the buffer, you're going to lose them. So if you've got this transcript going, you can just pop into that text file, start at the top, and work down. So the first thing I do, start transcript. Second thing I do is test SP content database. I'm giving it the database name and the web application I'm going to attach it to because feature solutions can be scoped at the web app. So test SP content database needs to know where it's going to go. Here are those errors. It's telling me missing feature, missing feature. I'm going to be honest with you. When I see that, there's that upgrade blocking true or false. No matter what the error is, if they're all false, I just up arrow and change test to mount, and I just mount it to see what happens. That's horrible. You should plan, you should fix, you should not upgrade crap. I get it. If it's not going to block it, I'm going to attach it. I'm going to see what happens. Because these databases all came over from backups from your previous environment. I can go in there and I can attach this, and if it's all crap, I can just delete it, restore it again, and try it again. These are saying there's some features missing, and these are all stuff that Jason plays with. These are all BI things, and honestly, I don't care if they're missing. So it's missing features, missing web parts, all that. So I'm just going to go back up, and I'm going to say mount that database. Go ahead, drop it into 2016. It does it. It counts it out for us. It says, hey, we had some things, check it out, but it all upgraded. Even though I had a bunch of warnings, I got my 5 site collections.
Now, something important here. It shows 100% right there. As you are upgrading it, it's going to lie to you.
Right to your face.
It's going to, right there, it's going to say 104%, 105%, 113%. At this point, go get a cup of coffee and come back. Okay? It's going to finish. When it finishes, it's going to drop back down to 100%. So we don't get that 150% goodness. It's going to drop back down. It just always reports 100%. So.
Yep. So these are some things that are the same going to 2016, 2010. All those commands that we ran are the same. We get 1 log per upgrade, so it's easy to figure out, if there's problems, which one was which. They're in the same directories. We can mount multiple databases at the same time. That is a function of SQL I/O. Most of your upgrade process happens on the SQL side and happens on the I/O side. So if you've got a lot of databases and you're wondering how many you can do at once, watch your SQL I/O. That's going to tell you what that is. And this can be multiple mount commands on a single SharePoint box or multiple mount commands on multiple SharePoint boxes. But again, it's all SQL. This is an important slide. I've seen you guys taking pictures of slides. This is an important one. Take a picture of this one. This is the process that you use when you're moving things over. So in 2016, set up your service apps. Before you move your content over. On the 2013 side, make your databases read-only, back them up, detach them from the old farm, don't delete them, detach them, and this is when you're making your final cutover. Back them up in SQL, restore them to your 2016 SQL instance, fix your permissions because you're using different service accounts and different farms. Make them writable because the whole read-only thing that you've done on your old farm to keep them from being changed over there, that's stored in the backup, so make them writable and then attach your content databases. That's the process. That's when you're moving from, we're really doing it, it's Friday night at 5 o'clock, we're really moving over. That's the process. You got it?
So yeah, so next is talking about patching build to build. Unfortunately, we're running right out of time. So this one, the big key thing here is go take a look at the zero downtime patching portion of this. There's a really great video. That's a link. So when you get the deck, go take a look at that. If you want to keep up to date, the best place I know to find out what's going on with all the new patching on the entire planet, the toddklindt.com/SP2016 builds. Now that's case sensitive, right?
Yeah,
so,
you're going to type.
but that is, Todd does a great job, and you and the community do a great job of giving him the feedback on that as well. So keep pumping his ego with that. With that, we will happily take some questions, but we're going to have to do it off stage. Yep. Thank you very much for coming.
Come on up. Thank you.
Please do your evals if you don't mind. We would really appreciate it. Yeah.